Let's go to the other big story dominating the world today, and that is the bittersweet story, of course, of the release of those 3 Israeli female hostages. The joy and elation at their release, yet the despair and outrage about the repugnant behaviour of Hamas, the horrible deals done to get these hostages released, the outrage and concern about the hostages still being held, 94 of them by Hamas, many of those already believed to have been dead. Here's how Fox News reported it today.
In a mob of Hamas gunmen, 3 young women held hostage since October 7th, 2023, were transferred from Hamas vehicles in Gaza City to Red Cross Jeeps. They were driven to Israeli special forces and ultimately to their mothers, who waited a year and a half to see and hold them. Hundreds of Israelis gathering at what has come to be called Hostage Square cheered at their liberation. 24-year-old Romy Gonen is from the north of Israel, captured at the Nova Music Festival. 31-year-old Doron Steinbracher from a kibbutz near the Gaza Strip was kidnapped from her home. 28-year-old Emily Damery, who is British, kidnapped from the same kibbutz. Her mother released a statement. Her nightmare is already behind her, but the impossible waiting of the rest of the families is still going on.
I want to talk about the really human aspect of this, how these developments and the anti-Semitism issues in Australia affect the Jewish community on the ground. And we've spoken before to Jewish community member Marnie Perlstein. She joins us again. Marnie, good to talk to you. First up, can you share with me the feelings you felt, you and your friends and family felt about the release of the hostages today?
Chris, a mixed bag of emotions. Obviously, elation that the hopes and prayers of 3 families and a whole nation were answered this morning with the return of Romy, Emily and Doron. So there was joy, but there was also a lot of anger to see the Red Cross deliver those women to the border of Israel and across the border into the arms of Israelis was infuriating, because we're talking about an organisation that did not go and see any of them, or any hostage for that matter, over the last 471 days. And then there was also a feeling, I think, of, in a sense, devastation about the world that the girls are coming back to, because it is certainly not the world that they left behind. I wonder how they're going to feel when they realise that there wasn't one women's advocacy group that spoke up on their behalf, that most of Hollywood, who would advocate for the rights of a flea or an ant, were not speaking up on their behalf, and that even Western University students were glorifying their captors, who, newsflash, are part of a terrorist organisation. So a lot of mixed emotions today, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a terrible contradiction, isn't it? It's a terrible realisation today when you see those pictures and you realise that there have been so many on the political left over the past year have really been arguing the case of those terrorists with the green bandanas over the year, rather than pushing the interests of those innocent women who've been taken hostage 471 days. It's a bewildering way to look at the world. And as you say, that's what they confront. Now, Marnie, you have a personal connection to one of the freed hostages, Romy. Tell us about that.
I actually have been advocating for all of the hostages for 471 days. It's become my full-time obsession. I've been to Israel twice since October 7, 2023. I've actually met 2 returned hostages and a number of hostage families, but I did have the privilege of meeting Romy's mum, Meirav, in May in Israel. It was day 220 of Romy's captivity, so she was only halfway through the captivity, and I had a chance to speak to Meirav and understand what she was going through, what all the hostage families were going through. And the reality is that Romy's mum, Meirav, prior to October 7, was a full-time mum raising 5 kids, and her joy was putting dinner on the table. She was not a woman who wanted to be in the public eye, and I actually met with her on, it was May the 14th, it was Yom Ha'atzmaut, which is Israeli Independence Day. It's a day where she should have been celebrating and partying with her family family, but she'd come to meet with a small group of us to advocate for her daughter and to beg us to go back to our countries and speak to our governments and our communal leaders, because she didn't feel that the plight of the hostages was being spoken about. And I remember saying to Mayrav that day that for such a quiet and shy woman, not only had she stepped into her strength, but she had also stepped into her power, because only a month later she actually went to the United Nations Human Rights Council and advocated for the return of her daughter. So today is quite unbelievable, I have to say.
Well, enjoy that freedom, enjoy the victory of Romy being released, and I know you'll keep fighting, Marnie, for the other hostages and against anti-Semitism in Australia, where there's been too little action too late. Thanks so much for joining us.